feel safe? Do you have an interface? Do you see your police officer? Do you think that the allocations are correct as far as traffic patrol versus foot patrol? Now, these are the type of questions I think we're being asked. And then what are your experiences? Are most of your experiences that you're getting support from your police officers, or do you feel that you
So
are...
you're objecting to the fact that we're bringing budget into the question.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I shared this with the mayor and he doesn't have any problem with the fact that we asked that.
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
Well,
Mayor's not part of the collaborative.
I think it's interesting that you're concerned about that. And I tried to do it.
Yeah, I'm a member of the
The way it
collaborative.
was written, and I keep saying I, and it really was a collaborative between Catherine and I, but was, are you aware? I mean, I just for fun have been asking people how many police officers do the village of Chatham has. They usually say 3 or 4. And it's just, and I'm not biased in any way. I am not looking to get rid of the police. I have no opinion at this point. Matter of fact, I'm really excited to do this because I'd like to hear. I'm curious what the community thinks and knows, and what we've heard tonight has been very interesting already so far.
I'll follow up a little bit on that, because when I look through the workbook, I think part of the remit is to look at the police budget to see if it could be, if monies are being used in a way that
Yes.
the community thinks is
Well, that
to
would be
their
a valid
benefit.
question.
To their benefit.
Appropriate.
That would be a
Can I
valid
finish?
question.
And there are
Can I
questions
please-
like
This
that.
isn't,
Wait a
this
minute,
doesn't
I
really,
haven't-
if you want to say this is a matter of fact.
Sorry, Catherine.
Okay, so one person's talking, we should let that one person finish.
Go ahead.
That's an idea.
I'm just saying if you want to use that as a matter of fact and then ask
Don't make a
questions
question, just
based
say
on
we're
that.
spending
Let's let Catherine
It's
finish.
not-
Sorry.
It's not a question.
Well, no, I don't know if we've lost track, but we're not listening to each other.
Go ahead, Catherine.
We're really not listening. So I was just trying to say that there's examples in the workbook about cities and towns of different sizes looking at the allocations of monies, which goes directly to the budget, to see if some of the money, and I'm not saying that's true for Chatham, could be used in other ways that would more benefit the community. And to me, that seemed like something worth doing.
Well,
So
it's
I'm
not
not sure
really
exactly if the questions Lisa and I came up with around the budget, because we did say to each other, because I said to you, Lisa, remember I said, I don't think most people know what the budget is. I didn't know what it was until I started coming here, but it's worth, part of the remit, if I'm not mistaken, is to look at how the money's allocated and are we getting the bang for our bucks in the right way that's helpful to the community?
Debbie, I framed the question then, would you be willing to pay more in taxes for additional services such as...
But then that leads them
But wait a
to,
minute, hang on, maybe it's not additional taxes, maybe it's reallocating funds in a different way.
Because we're still trying to find out if they even feel like they're
Putting
getting
them
any
into social
services.
services or
Like the
addiction,
police, the
substance abuse.
business people are saying, I don't even, what are they doing? So first we have to find out if people even know what the program is, what their needs are, what their experiences are, and, is the money being used?
I mean,
How could it be?
I guess what I thought is if once we get feedback, if everyone's totally hunky-dory happy, then we don't have a problem, we just leave things status quo. But if a large enough part of the community says, look, I think we need this, and it maybe would require additional funds or shuffling the budget around. I don't know, we won't know until we get the feedback, right?
Well,
Isn't
again,
that what-
I pose the argument that if you ask people, this goes back to the core, what are your needs? And if the needs come back, I'd really like to have a youth center, I'd like to have
Yeah.
a senior center.
Yeah.
I would like to have more beat patrol, I'd like to see the cops on bicycles after school, riding around the streets. Now, that is the needs. Whether or not they reallocate the $200,000 or add monies, that's a trustee decision, not this
Of course.
collaborative decision.
Yeah, but then that's another stage.
But all you're doing there is, you're just saying, you're saying, what are your needs? So you come back with a bucket full of needs, you hand it over to the trustees and say, here's our bucket full
But
of
that's
needs.
very important.
Figure it out, and they have to figure it out.
Sure, but that's important.
But that's, again, where I'm going back to, I don't see why we're asking questions about the budget instead of asking questions about the needs.
But we do. Are there other programs or additional services you would like to see the Village of Chatham Police providing to our community?
Right,
That's-
and I'm not arguing about that. What I'm arguing is about this bullet says, are you aware of the force, the dollars and whatnot? I just don't know where that question takes you.
Okay, and
That's
if she
what I'm
said she
saying
should
now.
just address, it should just be stated as a fact, instead of saying, are you aware? They'll be aware once they state it as a fact.
Could
I
we
agree.
just
We
take
can
that
state it as a
question
fact.
out? If we, could we just take that
If
question
we
out?
want them
if
there to
we-
move beyond it, I think we should. I mean, we just spinning our wheels.
We are.
Well, what we're about to do is issue a questionnaire that, depending on how it is utilized, is going to get a response. Again, when you ask the question, are you happy with your police department? I don't know what that question is. Come up with a
Actually, are you
word.
happy that we have the one?
It's a value judgment, Michael.
But
It's a value
But
judgment.
that's not what,
asking the questions of,
That's
do you feel
subjective.
safe? Aha. You asked the question about the property values. Yeah. But are you happy? How do you still see how that plays?
Well, if somebody asked me today if I'm happy as a landowner and a taxpayer, I would say, yes, I've never had any problems with this. I mean, I would give you, that's one way to get really good positive feedback. That's actually what I was thinking.
No, I think, do you feel safe? Do you feel secure? I mean, like, I don't feel happy or unhappy about police. I feel
But
secure
that's
or
why you,
insecure about
then you
police.
just have to have an option of yes, no, indifferent.
Well, no,
What, if you really, if.
A regular
show me
survey
a-
does
He, no, he
I've
doesn't, he
written
doesn't
this
like the word
question.
happy. You can
no,
come
I
up with
think it's
another word.
subjective and it
Yeah.
doesn't tell you anything. It's just
I
an
mean, what are we
emotion.
trying to get at with that question? Are we trying to get at how the money, are people satisfied with how the funds are being used? Is that what? is
Yeah,
that-
yeah, I think so,
That's
and
a more
also to,
specific question.
but they don't even,
to gauge people's awareness of the police department,
Yeah.
what they do, how many there are, what they do, and what we're spending on them. That was
Right.
really it.
but you have to have a much deeper history. Like you say, are you happy with how the money is being spent? You'd have to have quite a narrative in there telling them how it is being spent. That out of the 83 hours per week, this number of hours are on traffic patrol, this number of hours on this patrol, this number of
Sure.
hours on that
Yeah.
patrol. You think it should be spent differently. That's not what the survey does. Again, I've had a lifelong career in human resources, and there's this horrible thing that you've all experienced when HR sends out the questionnaire about how you feel about working here. Those questionnaires are horrible. And I've been in the position of being the director or the VP of making certain that those questions are not horrible. The one question we would never ask, are you happy working here?
Yeah.
Are you happy with your boss? You'd never ask that question.
Okay,
And that,
so
we're asking that question.
does everybody feel that it should be deleted?
Well, yeah, what I feel is that you should ask very specific questions that are trying to get at what you're getting at. Your safety question did that.
So there's like 12 questions on here. Do you wanna go through each one of them, or do you wanna give feedback on this at another time, or, I mean, I'm anxious,
Send
that
them
if
to
we
him.
have approval to do this, we really gotta get going doing it.
Because we do want to get it
Well,
up.
the
I
other-
need to
The
edit
other
some-
question I have is how is the information being assembled?
Through either a Google, Survey Monkey or a Google survey or something like that.
And you'll know who they're, I'm not being paranoid, I just wanna know how, that you know who is doing that.
Yeah, who's filling it out?
I
'Cause
mean, quite honestly, if it's, I think if
Anonymous.
It's, well, is it even gonna be anonymous if it's going through, because you'll see their email addresses, won't you?
I don't think so.
Not if
I'm
it's,
trying to
not if
remember.
it's on the village website, will you?
Well, if it's just an email that's sent in, but,
Well,
but
it's a-
this is part of what I don't understand. What? You guys are getting emails and, I mean, you don't even have set questions that the different focus groups are asking. So everybody's asking all different
The
questions.
feedback on needs and experience, because again, be careful here, because if there's a survey out there, there are probably a fair number of the population that would like to see the police department go away.
Who don't live
Now,
in
if
there.
they start voting 10 times,
So now you're.
Well,
getting
and
the
vice
crux of
versa.
why
I've
you
seen
are
you know, the
Please.
word gets out that, like, there's a survey out there, and if you answer the questions such as that
You're
you're
gonna have to
unhappy,
know.
that you
you're gonna
don't want
have to
the
know
money
who
spent on
filled
this,
them
you're
out,
gonna get
essentially.
that
That's
type
the
of
problem.
report back.
Because
That doesn't do
I've
this
seen the
group
same
any
thing.
good.
that's how the
I think,
majority.
I
of
just said from the
communities
beginning,
feel.
be careful of a survey, because you're gonna get,
Well,
Wait a
Spe-
minute,
you,
wait a
well, you're
minute.
gonna, you run the
Is
risk
it-
of getting special interests tampering out. One where,
Exactly.
and special
but if you
interest could be the
have-
police
if you
department,
have
or it could
people
be,
that are in a focus
whoever.
group, that have been assigned to a focus group, going out and getting solid information, and just reporting back what people are saying. That's something that we can take and say, this is what the community is, this is what the community is feeding back.
But how
But
can
if
you
you do a
say the
survey, I tell
community
you.
when everybody's speaking to 4 people?
yeah.
That's what I
Because
don't
it's
get.
only anecdotal. Again, a survey, go
All
ahead, go ahead and do it, and then you can live with the consequences of it. Because I tell you, you're gonna get a big feedback of people that are saying, no police department.
So what if we use
It's gonna
this
turn
as a
into a
questionnaire and we go door to door and hand it out to people?
It's gonna
Then
turn
how-
into
but
a
then how do you-
referendum.
How do you assemble the information? I mean,
But,
Well, then it has to be dropped off at the village hall probably, and then it has to be assembled somehow.
by whom?
That's what I'm volunteering to do.
I mean, but if there are 500 responses.
There won't be
Well,
500.
I'm just,
It'll be likely if there's
would like
57.
to
Yeah.
remind you that the village offices are not open right now. They are working from home at this point. That's on the
I mean, these are
website
just
today,
I'm
I
just-
believe,
I'm not
but
thinking-
today,
here's logistics.
the village offices, they are.
I
working
just
from
think
home.
it's a shame that we are so paranoid that we can't feel that we can ask our neighbors for input. The governor has asked us to reach out to
Right.
our community to find out how we're doing with our police department.
Right.
And if it's worth the taxpayers' dollars, or if the money's being
That's
used.
not what's being asked.
Okay, I'm sorry I said that.
That's not
The
what's
point
being
is, we are asked to ask our community how the police, I mean, we've got 2 programs, that was another question on here, that supposedly we are running, and we're not, and there's no link to even the programs on here.
asked. They're not being run. They haven't been run.
Right, the more that I'm learning about it, I'm starting to question, there's a lot of work, there's a lot we could be doing with our community policing. We need, but we can't just sit here and make those decisions, we need to hear from the community. So you tell me, not just Michael, how would you all like Catherine and I to reach out to the people that live here, that don't fall into the Black community, the elderly community, the user community? I'll do it, just tell me, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to reach as many people as possible in the
I'll-
community.
well, is there a extant, what did you call it? The extant group of originally assigned people, how many, are they all here?
For the,
You?
for the collaborative?
The
yes.
collaborative.
yeah, I think.
This,
Sure,
this is
this
the
is it.
collaborative plus the advisors for the groups. These are the people who volunteered to come and work on this, group, on this project. And then out into the groups.
So, Lisa, I'd like to answer your question, how would you like to see this happen? Do we know how many residents in the village there are?
Roughly
JP and Pete
1,700.
might be able to answer. How many?
Roughly 1,700.
17.
Well, that's all people.
Right,
Like,
so,
children is, no.
right, but I guess I'm thinking about like, I mean, I would just kind of keep it to the property owners or renters. If you're saying 1,700 people, there could be 6 or 8 in a household.
Right,
Right.
there's
So-
roughly 800 structures, and I believe there's 675 residents.
Talked about that earlier tonight, right?
Okay,
Tom?
so
Yeah, I think
that's too many. I was thinking maybe as a possibility, if we're all having issues about whether we can agree on a questionnaire that can be put together with questions that are really appropriate or really agreeable to everybody, then maybe the answer would have been to canvas, like people do when they're doing, sorry, Tom. like peop-
Campaigning.
Canvas, like people who are either campaigning or taking the census or something, door knock
Yeah.
and say, this is what we're doing, we, explain what we are, what you are, and that, we just wanna get some feedback, it's anonymous, or just take some notes. You can have your list of questions, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking, if you're saying, do we go question by question, we could just be more general. Do you feel secure and safe?
do you know how many police are on the force? I mean, I don't know whether that's even a question we need, if it's important for this survey or for this, report or not, but, we could have our own sort of, whatever. In terms of what I'm asking, I'm basically saying, have you had any experiences with the Chatham Police Department? Yes or no question. If it's no, then we can lead in with, you know, why do you think that is? Have you tried and you haven't gotten someone? Has there been a reason you haven't? If it's yes, then you go into what were your experiences? Can you explain the situation and what happened and how, you know, how did that come out? And that will be your basic sort of going in with. And then on top of that, the second part, which is the needs, do you feel that there are supports and services